Okay, in this next section we're going to talk about supporting floppy drives. In order to support floppy drives, we need to know a little bit about the floppy drive architecture. In other words, how floppy drives are put together and how the read-write head actually reads the data, or actually is aligned with the track so that it can read the data. Then we'll talk about problems that can occur with a floppy drive, error messages that we might get, and what they indicate. How to replace the drive and a controller card. How to add an additional floppy drive to a computer system. And then why a floppy drive might not be able to read a disk. So first, let's look at the components that make up the floppy drive system. The components that make up the floppy drive system include the floppy drive itself, the data cable that connects the floppy drive to the system board, and the power cord that connects the floppy drive to the power supply. One of the things that is critical in order for a floppy drive to correctly read a disk is head alignment. The alignment of the head on the floppy drive should be right in the middle of the track. In other words, a properly aligned head will rest right in the center of a track. A bad radial alignment means that the head is actually going over more than one track. It's crossing over the line between tracks. And a bad azimuth alignment means that the head is actually at an angle to the track, so that it's actually crossing over the line as well. Error messages that we can get from a floppy drive are non-system disk or disk error. We most commonly will get this message when we have a floppy drive in the system and we're restarting it and we didn't realize the floppy drive was there. And that floppy drive that's in the system does not have the files in it that are required to boot the system, the command com file, as well as the ms-dos.sys and io.sys files. And since it doesn't have those files, we'll get this error, non-system disk or disk error. All we need to do in this case is remove the floppy drive from the A drive and let the computer see the C prompt. If we were trying to use that disk to start the system, then what we would need to do is make it a system disk. Invalid or missing command com means that the system found the ms-dos.sys and io.sys files but did not find command com, or found an older version of command com which it can't use. Incorrect DOS version means that we're trying to use a command that was used on an older DOS version but is no longer recognized in the newer DOS version that we're using. For example, the edlin command, which was used in the earlier DOS versions, has now been replaced by a command called edit. If we use the edlin command on a newer DOS version, we'll get an incorrect DOS version. Invalid drive specification means that we've chosen a drive that doesn't exist in the computer. Not ready reading drive A usually means that the disk is not fully inserted. It looks like it's in, but if we push it just a little bit further, it'll click into place. General failure reading drive A and track 0 bad disk not usable are usually unrecoverable errors. In other words, there's something wrong with that disk. Maybe it got too close to a magnet or a speaker, or maybe it's physically damaged, but that disk is not usable. Write protect error, writing drive A, is a simple error to fix. If you take a close look at a floppy disk, you'll notice that there is a tab on the corner of the floppy disk, on the right corner if you're holding the floppy disk so that the metal sleeve is pointing downward. If we flip the tab over so that the hole is exposed, that locks the disk. In other words, data will not be able to be written to that disk. If we have the tab in place and did not realize that we did, we'll get the write protect error writing drive A. This is just the system trying to protect the disk from being written to. Next, we'll take a look at how we replace a damaged floppy drive.